this is a theme that's come up a lot today, which is about solving real problems. Now, the way Jay-Z articulates this is I sell water to a well. Actually, this is where I disagree. Marketing is important, sales is important, but solve a real problem. You don't need to go against the grain. Now, what we mean by solving a real problem is it needs to be actually something that you're passionate about, because you're going to spend a lot of your time and all of your effort working on it. But make sure it's a problem that actually has a market that's big enough to sustain you and your business. There's so many amazing products out there that are designed brilliantly, the tech's brilliant, the team are great, but actually the market isn't big enough for them to actually continue to exist. And make sure that the solution that you've come up with is something that's unique, and you have your own angle of how you're doing that. Now, we talk about our core being and reason for being about making lives more interesting. You need to have yours and be about that in everything you communicate, everything you do, and everything that you articulate all of the time. Two things you have to be able to articulate at any point in time is, the first is, what problem are you solving? Make sure you hit people so hard that they resonate with that problem and they feel it. And then you need to give them that solution. And that solution needs to be so simple and so compelling that they have to have it. A really good example of this actually is with our product Squirrel. So we were going to launch it next week. It was going to be in the App Store. And we sat the team down and said, okay, tell me the problem, tell me the solution, sell it to me right now. And none of the team could do it. And we weren't surprised by that, because at the point and where we'd got to, we couldn't do it. We've actually spent a lot of time now, and we've actually realized that we were slightly lacking in the problem and in turn the solution. Now, that's going to cost us about a month of development work, which will cost about $5,000. If we'd have put it out there and followed our plan and not been really, really hard and really focused on the problem, we probably could have waited 6 to 9 months and spent upwards of 50 to 100 grand. So make sure you're solving a real problem and constantly check in with yourself.
And this one follows on directly from that. If you overcomplicate your brand and positioning, people find it really difficult to connect with you, and in turn they won't want to share your story. So this is something we really struggle with our original product, which was called Iron 150. And as Andy mentioned again, it's a challenge we're currently facing with Squirrel. We found that explaining the benefits of the product is actually a lot more successful than outlining the individual features. People want to know why it's going to make their life better, so you've got to be really clear about the value you're bringing in your product.
Yeah, so learn more in failures than you do in success. We all mess up. Sometimes we mess up really, really badly. Get over it, learn from it, and then move on. A really important mindset that we instill in everyone who's in our team or that we work with is approach everything as a way of testing and validating your learnings. It's not about an ego, it's not about failing fast, it's actually about what can I learn in this situation. As a small business, a really, really good competitive advantage you have over the big boys is effectively they struggle to take small steps. It's all about giant leaps. Now, those giant leaps cost much more money and they take much more time. If you're constantly learning and evolving and moving, whether it's sideways, forward and sometimes back, you'll always get to a point where you are ahead of the game. And that's why tech's so exciting. Another example is Iron 150. Which is now Gatherly. When we started that product, we were told it would be a mobile product. We spent, as Nick said, a weekend hacking it together. We then spent 2 months testing it. We found out it wasn't mobile. We then did it as an online desktop. We did the same. We hacked it together, and then we spent 2 months testing it. We found out, funnily enough, it wasn't either. We then thought, with everything we'd learned and where we were, we could easily raise £1 million from investors and VCs. And funnily enough, we weren't at that point. So after a particularly brutal beating from a VC, and I'd suggest to everyone, get in front of a really smart VC, and they will beat you up and you'll learn a hell of a lot from it. So we went to our second office again, and what we found was we took all of our learnings, we took how much money we had left, and we worked out a plan to get to our the next stage. And after the weekend, we sat down and we thought, brilliant, we've made a really, really complicated product even more complicated. So we basically hacked it apart, and the products became Gatherly, which is generating some pretty impressive revenue, and Squirrel, which when it does launch, we know is going to change people's lives.
So engage with your audience. We started out by doing lots of anonymous user research online, using tools like Verify, and they're great for finding top-level feedback. But when we got away from the computer, it made a huge difference. We started inviting people in to have a coffee with us and chatted through our ideas. Then we got really interesting feedback, but as an added bonus, these people had developed an emotional connection to us. They bought into us, they bought into our brand, and in turn they bought into our products, and ongoing have become really, really useful and provide ongoing valuable insight. We reward them with amazing opportunities and continue to make sure them feel like they're part of the extended team.
Yeah, so multiple revenue is the key to success. But actually, this is all about changing the game. We were one of those businesses for the first few months where all we cared about was actually raising funding. Now, you're never going to solve consumer problems doing this, and investors are really hard to please. They've got there for a reason. So we basically looked at where our green shoots were, and for us that was revenue. So we didn't ignore audience. We focused on revenue, knowing that actually it was going to take us towards building an audience. On the flip side, if you're starting to grow exponentially an audience, then that's where you should focus. But again, don't forget about the potential revenue and the business model that you're going to eventually need. It's a much easier conversation with the VC to say, I've got X revenue, if you give me Y, we'll end up with Z.
So when we started the Interest Network, which is our parent company, we sat down and had a chat about the values, and it's been mentioned a few times tonight, the importance of values of the brand. We made sure they were realistic, but most importantly, we wrote them down, and we genuinely live by these values in every hire we make. We make sure they're the right cultural fit for the team. For us, we want our company to be a place where people enjoy coming to work, and it's a lot easier for us to keep our current team happy than it is to make new hires.
A closed mouth don't get fed. If you don't ask for partnerships, if you don't ask for advice, if you don't ask for sales, you're not going to get them. Make sure you find out where your weakness is and be really aware of the people who actually can help you and support you getting to where you need to get to. Be really humble about what you need from them and be really open about the benefits you can give back to them. I'm really clear whenever I meet someone, if there's a specific ask, before I meet them, what I'm actually going to ask of them. Because they can either then tell me to bugger off, or they're normally, what I find is they come with quite a good solution. But it's not all about being focused just purely on yourself. What we tend to do, and again this is part of living our values, is to make sure that we are making people's lives more interesting. If we haven't set the meeting, or if it's a chance meeting, it's all about what can we give back, how can we help these people, rather than what can we get back from them. And that's not about being naive, that's not about us being busy fools or doing something to get something back. We call it karma credit, because we know that at some point these guys are probably going to be able to help us out with something, and more importantly, they're going to want to.
Cool, just to wrap it up, recognise your strengths. There's a lot of different options when it comes to getting up and running, from self-funding to angel investment and incubators. It's important to understand that each has its pros, but also its cons. You need to rationally look at every offer that's on the table and ensure you're making the right decision. It's always hard to turn an offer down, but if you question the value that other person's bringing to the table, it's often best to walk away and do it on your own. Not accepting a place in a well-respected incubator was probably the best decision we've ever made for the business. It just wasn't right for us.
Okay, so there you got it. So hustle, solve, engage, reinvent, represent, and collaborate. And the last thing we'll say is don't let success go to your head. Be more Jay-Z than Kanye. Thank you.